Prologue. Arlong 8 years prior, Neza and his younger brother Mingxia venture to the mysterious grottos of the Nine Curves River, drawn by tales of treasures and dark evils. Despite warnings, Neza is compelled to explore with Mingxia, who is determined to see the caves. As they approach, Neza discovers their father's cloak submerged in the river, raising alarm. Ignoring Neza's pleas, Mingxia wades closer to the grotto, triggering a massive wave that pulls Neza underwater. There he glimpses eerie treasures and faces embedded in the sand. When Neza surfaces, Mingxia has vanished and blood stains the water. Neza is left in horror as a dark figure looms before the grottos. Part 1. In Chapter 1, the Petrel arrives in war-torn Adlaga as Rin and the Chike prepare for an assassination mission against Magistrate Yang Yuanfu. Despite struggling with opium withdrawal, Rin is determined to succeed. Tension brews within the group, especially between Rin and Chagan, who doubts her leadership. They scavenge uniforms for disguise, ensuring civilian safety, but an unexpected parade complicates their plans. As Rin navigates the crowd, she battles overwhelming anger and visions of violence fueled by the Phoenix. Unajin intervenes as her emotions spiral, but the chapter culminates with the shocking sight of the Empress arriving on a palanquin. In Chapter 2, Rin is shocked to see the Empress Sudaji alive at the parade, contrasting her unscathed appearance with the trauma of the war and the deaths of her comrades. Overwhelmed by anger, Rin attempts to confront Daji, but is held back by Unigan. As Rin's fury intensifies, she loses control and begins to emit fire, creating panic among the crowd. When the Empress disappears, Rin's emotional turmoil escalates, prompting Chagan to sedate her with laudanum to prevent her from harming anyone. The chapter ends with Rin reflecting on her destructive power as they escape, triggering a manhunt for them. In Chapter 3, Rin wakes up disoriented after days of unconsciousness, realizing she's lost crucial allies, Unegan and Enki, who have abandoned the Chika. Chagan confronts her about her reckless behavior, emphasizing her duty to protect the remaining members who are scared and vulnerable. As Rin struggles with her sense of inadequacy compared to Alton, she learns that her crew has chosen to stay loyal despite their fears. Alone in her cabin, she battles with the Phoenix, the destructive force within her, recalling past horrors and self-inflicted pain. In despair, she turns to opium, seeking escape from her burdens. In Chapter 4, Ramza mentions that Ankalun's government office is monitoring the city's weight capacity, nearing its limit. Baji suggests relocating some residents. Rin expresses her discomfort with the chaotic floating city, reliant on opium. They seek an audience with Pirate Queen Moag, who offers Rin a job to sink an opium skimmer in exchange for supplies. Moag reveals that Rin's bounty has increased and questions her motives. Rin insists on finding her friend Kitai, leading her to his hidden location. Upon meeting, Kitai shows distress over his house arrest and their conflicted past, resulting in an intense confrontation that escalates to fire and emotional turmoil. In Chapter 5, Rin battles seasickness as the crew prepares for dangerous waters ahead. Experienced sailor Baji warns of looming threats, while tensions rise over past failures, especially Alton's. They encounter the crewless cormorant, which launches an ink projectile, blinding their water shaman Aracha, and incapacitating the crew with opium smoke. Rin awakens tied to a mast surrounded by her comrades, and realizes they are being pursued by a foreign battleship. A general appears, ordering her and the crew to be unbound. To Rin's shock, he is Neza, who she believed was dead, and he reveals their past connection. In Chapter 6, Rin confronts Neza, who has rescued her from danger, feeling betrayed but reluctantly listening to his explanation. He presents a deal from his father, warlord Yin Vaisra, who wants her help to overthrow the Empire, assuring her that her crew will be safe. Despite Rin's skepticism, Vaisra argues for a revolution due to the Empire's failures, proposing a new republic. She grapples with the idea of joining him, considering the benefits of his resources against her desire for revenge against Daji. Ultimately, Rin realizes she may have no choice but to accept Vaisra's offer, given the dire situation. In Chapter 7, Rin struggles with opium withdrawal, isolating herself and confronting Vaisra, who forbids her drug use. Learning from Nezha about the devastation the Federation has caused to returning refugees, she feels despair but is saved from drowning by Suni. As the Seagram sails over a flooded town, Rin realizes the consequences of the dam breach. After overcoming withdrawal, she regained